Welcome to episode 22 of Faithful Resistance. Now, when I sat down to sketch out an intro this time, it was strange. I wasn't fuming as much as normal, and it took about 2 seconds to realize it's because my husband and I took a little vacation last week to Moab and spent most of that time immersed in music. We are folk musicians and songwriters, and it was so nice to be with our people. Kind of like our podcast people. You know, on that same wavelength, passionate, compassionate, determined. Sometimes I worry about spending too much time in my liberal bubble, but it's not like I'm ignoring what's going on in the world. I was a reporter in my first life after all, and I spend most days in the morning, first thing, scouring the news. And I bet you do too. So, to the task at hand. I love talking to people who are completely committed to resisting in a loving way. Such a person is Anne Kleinkopf, who years ago, during Trump 1, helped start a group called the Interfaith Immigration Network. And you won't be the least surprised to hear that these days, they have plenty to do. We're so pleased today to be joined by Anne Kleinkopf, who's with the Interfaith Immigration Network. I'll get it right, the IIN. Welcome, Anne. Thanks for joining us. And
Thanks so much for having me here.
I would love it if you would start off by telling us how and when the Interfaith Immigration Network got started.
It got started right after the first busload of migrants from Central America were shipped to Denver 5 or 6 years ago. My church at that point, First Plymouth UCC, was one of the many churches that stepped forward to help house and help that group of migrants. Our experience there woke me up to the fact that there is a lot of untapped potential and tremendous interest in the faith community in helping both recent migrants and long-term immigrants to our country. So I banded together with other folks, including Diane Bassett of Montview, and we put together Interfaith Immigration Network to try to tap into that potential and to mobilize the faith community to support immigrant lives and immigrant rights.
I only found out about you in this Trump term, but you've been around for quite a long time, although I bet you're about as busy now as you've ever been. Is that true?
We are, and in fact, really, the election of Trump really galvanized the organization, as it did with a lot of people. And we have seen a huge expansion of interest in our mission, in our work since January.
Well, let's start with the interfaith part of the coalition. Who's a part of this, and why is the interfaith aspect so crucial to you?
Let me start with why the interfaith aspect is so important. Particularly today, the public square, public discourse needs a strong, clear, moral voice. And it is really important that faith communities of all traditions come together to be that strong, clear, moral voice, because there are elements in our country who identify themselves as faith communities and who are acting very unlovingly toward our immigrant neighbors. And all too often, they tend to get the voices of hate, the voices of discord, tend to get the news coverage. And what we are wanting to do and what we are doing is making sure that faith voices of love and support for our neighbor are heard in our society and are heard clearly and lovingly and that we include persons of all faiths, because that sort of inclusion, loving inclusion, is one of our messages and of the deep messages of all the major faiths.
I wish so many people would hear that, because it isn't as if one sect of us has the corner on the truth and the corner on morality. And
Exactly.
there are versions, for example, of the golden rule called other things in every faith. Were you always an interfaith person? Can you remember when you got that bingo in your head that we're all in this for the same moral reason? Does anything come to mind?
Um, I think that because of my upbringing, I grew up in New Orleans, and it's a very multicultural, multi-faith society. And I went to a school for 13 years, K through 12, that had a very, very large Jewish population in it. It was almost 50% Jewish, and in fact had been founded long ago as a training school for Jewish orphans. So that being around people of other faiths has always been a part of my upbringing. And as a seeker for truth, I have always been interested in and open to the profound experiences and insights of people from all over the world and from all traditions, including all faith traditions.
I know that a lot of your work that you do right now is centered on that detention center in Aurora, the Geo Detention Center. Why focus there? What are they doing that you find so morally appalling?
The Geo Detention Center in Aurora, as are all detention centers these days, are a very important part of a very deeply and intentionally cruel and inhumane system. The detention center in Aurora, for example, was built to house, I believe, 1,400 people, and we have it on good information that there are more people there than that now. So there are conditions of overcrowding, poor sanitation, in fact, deliberate mistreatment and poor conditions that are designed, not only, speaking frankly, simply to dehumanize those who are imprisoned there, but also as a way of forcing the detainees to be in conditions so terrible that they choose, and you can decide for yourself how voluntary that choice is. They choose to leave the country, which gets labeled as voluntary deportation, rather than continue to be subjected to really, really inhumane conditions. The other really important thing, so many important things about the detention center, but the detention center is filled with our neighbors, with innocent people who have been picked up off the streets. I mean, for example, I just heard last night about a young Afghan woman who has a work permit. The United States granted her a work permit, and believe me, that is not easily done these days. And she has a petition for asylum in. The ICE picked her up without a warrant. She has committed no crimes. She is not accused of committing any crimes, and took her away from her family despite the legal protections that our system should be giving her, and has thrown her into this awful jail. That story is repeated over and over and over with every inmate with every imprisoned person in um, in the detention center. So they are there as a result of acts of cruelty on the part of representatives of our country. And when they are there, they are subjected to further cruelty. And then they are cruelly and often very unfairly and unjustly forced out of this country that they had hoped would be their new home and back to conditions that for many, many, many of them mean suffering and death.
So for weeks, for months, for years, actually, you've been working on this problem, and I see it on the agenda that gets emailed out that you're out there Mondays mostly. To,
People, that is not just Interfaith Immigration Network. Immigration advocates from all over the greater Denver area and Colorado are out there every Monday. And I do not want IIN to take credit for that because that is largely organized by many other good folk. But yes, people are out there every Monday.
and do the people who are being detained know that you're there?
Some of them absolutely do, because when you go out for one of these vigils, two really important things can happen. One with Jeanette Viscara, but also with other folks who are detained within the facility and have contacts with immigration organizations outside of the facility. It is possible to arrange a phone call while the vigil is going on to have folks from the facility speak to the gathered crowd. If that is not possible, many of them, yes, absolutely know that every Monday this is what's going on. But also, when the crowd walks around from the front door to the side of the facility, they can hear us out there. And they will stand by the window. You can't really see into the window because they are frosted. But people press their hands up against the window to say, "We are here and we know you are there." And seeing those hands pressed up against the window is heartbreakingly powerful.
It just gives me shivers. And week after week, people go there. And what keeps you going? Because ICE doesn't seem to be changing, and the policies are not changing.
One of the reasons that I thought it important to mobilize people of faith in this endeavor is I think that many people of faith have the advantage of knowing that there are deep resources of love at our disposal, that those resources cannot be tapped out, and that they are always there to be tapped into. And indeed, that love is what keeps us going.
I realize I forgot to ask about this very cool new thing that you're doing called the meditation vigil.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
This has been started by two very wonderful Buddhist members of our group who, because of their involvement with Zen peacemaking organization, are aware of the importance of simply bearing witness lovingly, presently, to the horrors going on inside the detention center and to the suffering going on inside the detention center. And the purpose of the meditation We're just in a trial period right now with small groups of people once a week, doing about an hour of sitting and walking meditation, is in a very peaceful, nonviolent, loving, non-confrontational, very countercultural way, standing outside to bear witness to what is going on inside and also to send love and healing to everyone inside.
I understand that you do advocacy, you do education, you do direct action.
Yes.
That's an awful lot of opportunity for people to volunteer. How would a person volunteer?
The best thing to do is to go on our website, interfaithimmigrationnetwork.org, all little letters all together. And you can do a couple of things. We have a page on our website that is called CARE that lists some of the many, many organizations around the greater Denver area that are doing amazing advocacy and education and accompaniment work with our immigrant neighbors around the Denver area. And the website includes direct links to all of those organizations, and to the work that we at IIN are doing. If you would like additional information, the other thing you can do, and this is on our website as well, is just write to us directly. Our email is interfaithimmigrationnetwork@gmail.com, and we will respond, I will respond, to any questions or expressions of interest.
I wonder, you're so passionate about this, and you talked about being raised in New Orleans and being exposed early on to an interfaith, but what is it in your faith heart that moves you to do this work week in and week out and year in and year out?
Love and community, and values that grow out of those. For me, the interhuman connection of love is the fundament of life. It's the foundation. It's the life spring. And what we do at IIN is an expression of that. And part of the way that we keep going, and it's not just me, it is so many amazing people who come to our IIN meetings, but who are involved in the many amazing, wonderful, committed pro-immigrant organizations around Denver and around Colorado. Building loving community among ourselves is also the way we keep going. But all of us also have the present reality and the memory of loving community built with so many of our immigrant neighbors. And those folks are suffering. My sense is that things are going to get worse with the Trump administration before they get better. And with a heart of love, how could we not continue to work?
Well, thank you for your work. I hope that the next time that we talk, things are better. And if they are, it's going to be because of people like you and organizations like yours.
Well, thank you. And the many other people out there, and you with your podcast are also part of this wonderful community working together. So thank you for what you do as well. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Anne. If you have ideas for topics or people to interview, please email us at faithfulresistance@jeffersonunitarian.org. And please share this podcast with other people of goodwill and subscribe to it yourself. Also, for opportunities for social justice action and education, marches, protests, classes, many other ways to do your part, please check out the Faithful Resistance page at our website, jeffersonunitarian.org. And then just keep doing the next right thing. Go out and do the next right thing.